So, you should buy Replaced. I mean, genuinely. This is one of those indie games that immediately has you drawn in the second you pick it up. But, and this is important, it's not because it reinvents gameplay. In fact, if you come in expecting something mechanically groundbreaking, you might actually walk away a little underwhelmed. The reason you should buy Replaced is because it absolutely nails something a lot of games struggle with: cohesion. The story, the atmosphere, the art direction. They all come together in a way that feels intentional, polished, and in some aspects, kind of rare. So let's talk about why this works so well, where it doesn't, and ultimately giving another reason to pick up Replaced. Replaced is a cinematic cyberpunk action platformer developed by Sad Cat Studios. It dropped roughly a month ago after years of anticipation. And right away, you can tell this was a game that had a very clear vision from the start. It's set in a gritty dystopian cyberpunk world. Think neon lights, decaying infrastructure, corporate control, and that constant feeling that something is just off. You play as Reach, an artificial intelligence trapped in a human body trying to navigate a society that's already falling apart. Structurally, the game is pretty straightforward. It's a mix of side-scrolling exploration, narrative-driven progression, and combat encounters that break up the pacing. There's platforming, there's fighting, there's story, nothing too special. Though, what Replaced does is take those familiar pieces and present them in a way that feels incredibly refined. The first thing that hits you right off the bat is the art direction. This is another game that gives us an unmistakably beautiful and equally haunting world to fall in love with. The pixel art style is flawless. The environments feel handcrafted. The animation is smooth and deliberate. And the lighting, especially in those cyberpunk cityscapes, adds so much depth that it almost stops feeling like pixel art and starts feeling like something else entirely. It's not just pretty for the sake of being pretty either. The visuals actively support the tone of the game. You feel the decay in the world. You feel the tension in the environments. There's a constant sense of unease that's reinforced by how everything looks. And that ties directly into the atmosphere, which is one of the game's biggest strengths. Replaced feels cohesive. That's the word that keeps coming up. The music, the environments, the pacing, it all works together. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels like it was thrown in just to check a box. You can see that it was made to be a very curated experience. And because of that, the game ends up feeling almost like an 11-hour movie. That's not an exaggeration. The way the story unfolds, the way scenes transition, the way characters interact, it has the cinematic flow to it that pulls you in and doesn't really let go. It's a story that has you captivated and intrigued all the way through. It grabs you early and it keeps building on itself. I love that there was enough depth here, not just in the main narrative, but in the world itself. You can piece together how everything works, what happened to the society, and where your character fits into it, which is part of the game's charm. It's not overly complicated, and I don't think it needs to be. It's engaging, it's consistent, and most importantly, it's interesting enough to keep you moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, I have nothing but compliments for the pacing. This is something a lot of games struggle with, especially narrative-driven ones. But Replaced handles it really well. Combat doesn't overstay its welcome. It shows up at the right moments, breaks up exploration and story, and then steps back. Each chapter feels like it brings something new. Maybe it's a new environment, a new narrative piece, or just a shift in tone. It keeps the experience feeling fresh, even if the core gameplay loop doesn't change much. Not that I dislike the gameplay. I mean, it's not revolutionary, but it's polished. Attacks feel responsive, animations are smooth, and there's a satisfying rhythm to encounters. It does what it needs to do, and it does it well enough that it never becomes frustrating. That's kind of the theme with Replaced. It doesn't try to do too much, but what it does really well. Now, this is where we need to be real for a second. Because as strong as Replaced is in terms of presentation and storytelling, the gameplay is also where it shows its limitations. The biggest issue with it is repetition. You start to notice a few hours in, the combat, while polished, doesn't evolve much. You're doing a lot of the same actions, fighting similar types of enemies, and going through encounters that don't change dramatically over time. And that lack of system expansion is quite apparent. The game doesn't really build on its mechanics in a meaningful way, so you're not unlocking a ton of new abilities that completely change how you approach combat. You're not seeing major shifts in gameplay that force you to adapt. It's more refinement without evolution, and depending on what you're looking for, that might be a problem. If you're someone who loves games that constantly introduce new systems, new mechanics, and new layers of complexity, Replaced might feel a bit static. Then you have the enemy variety, which has the same issues the gameplay has. There are definitely moments where you wish the game pushed things further by giving us more enemy types, more unique encounters, more situations that force you to think differently. And that applies to the bosses too. They're not bad, but they're also not as challenging or memorable as they could be. There's a sense that the game plays it a little too safe here. You can see the potential for something more intense, something more demanding, but it doesn't quite go all the way. So while the gameplay is enjoyable, it doesn't reach the same level as the art direction or the story. It's good, maybe even great, but definitely not anything to praise too much. And that's important to understand before you go in, because if you're expecting the gameplay to carry the experience, you might walk away feeling like something's missing. So, who'd enjoy a game like Replaced? Well, if you're someone who values atmosphere, storytelling, and visual design, this is absolutely your kind of game. If you like games that feel cinematic, that pull you into a world and keep you there, this is going to click with you almost immediately. If you enjoyed experiences where the journey matters more than mechanical depth, where the vibe is just as important as the gameplay, you're probably going to love this. But if you're more gameplay driven, if you need constant progression, evolving systems, and deep mechanics to stay engaged, I don't think the gameplay has enough to keep you hooked. I mean, that doesn't mean you won't enjoy it. It just means you need to go in with the right expectations. Because Replaced isn't trying to be everything. It's trying to be a very specific kind of experience. And for the right audience, it absolutely succeeds. So, should you buy Replaced? I mean, I think so. Even with its flaws, even with the repetition, even with the lack of gameplay evolution, this is still one of the strongest indie experiences of 2026. While it doesn't excel in all fields, I for one don't think it needs to. The art direction alone makes it worth experiencing. The atmosphere pulls you in. The story keeps you engaged. And the overall package feels complete in a way that a lot of games don't. It's a cohesive experience, and an outstanding one at that. Not every game needs to constantly bring something new to the industry. Sometimes it's enough to take familiar ideas and execute them at a high level. And while Replaced does exactly that. So, if you've been on the fence about buying this one, I'd say take this one as your sign. Replaced is worth your time. At the end of the day, Replaced feels like a game that knows exactly what it wants to be. It's not chasing trends. It's not trying to overload you with systems or mechanics. It's focused, it's intentional, and it delivers an experience that feels crafted rather than assembled. Yes, there are things I wish it did better, and I wanted more enemy variety. I wanted tougher bosses. I wanted the gameplay to evolve a bit more as it went on. But even with those issues, I kept thinking the same thing while playing it. Give me more. That's usually a good sign, because when a game leaves you wanting more, you can successfully say, this game does enough to appeal to an audience. And Replaced definitely does have its audience. So, if you've played it, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to Controller Culture for more videos like this. Whether it's masterpieces, reviews, or just passionate discussions about games we love. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one.